There was not much opportunity. There was like limited change except for like mass layoff and reorg. So every like year and a half or so, we would go through like a huge change. I had two mat leaves in there that were like about 15 months each. And so I would come back and try to find my feet. And when it was announced, I didn't really know what my outcome was going to be, but I remember thinking like, I'm done. Like it's time for me to kind of find where I belong and like kind of take back the power and like take back my career and the direction. Yeah.
You're kind of fresh off a pivot, and sometimes it's when things are most fresh in your mind, what you learned, maybe even what you would do differently. But also like maybe you're still in like a little bit of a vulnerable stage. You're still learning a new job and getting up to speed, I'm sure. So I really appreciate you putting yourself out there to do that.
Immediately, I hired a professional resume writer and I booked headshots. And I thought, those are the two things. Those are the two things I need. I'm going to hit the ground running no matter what happens. I'm going to be set. And I honestly believe that. But I was very wrong.
Updating your resume should be step 40 is like the way it starts. And everybody or a lot of people just think it's step 1. And I can understand it. And maybe it's like the most actionable thing you can do, but there's just, and I think the hard thing is they're sort of rushing to the finish line of what they need to do or something close to like the last step.
So initially I started looking at tech and innovation because I had that one role that I really enjoyed. And I thought, well, this is a great change. If I could get in this space, and I was really looking at tech and innovation in energy. Then I started to learn more about like software tech and hardware tech in Calgary. Started networking a lot in the like kind of software focused tech space. I did my Scrum Master. I even had a couple of like contracts. I did a Scrum Master contract, but ultimately I ended up I'm at Canada's Oil Sands Innovation Alliance, which is COSIA. I started there in October. And the whole mandate of COSIA is to like accelerate environmental performance in the oil sands. And it's through like the collaboration of all the members, which are 7 of our oil sands major operators. So it's really like collaborating amongst those operators and figuring out how can we improve the environmental performance? How can we reduce emissions? How can we really make oil sands production more sustainable, while we're in this whole energy transition. So it's a very clean tech focused role, highly collaborative, which I enjoy. And also we're part of like developing a scale up program. So I still get to really be involved in the whole ecosystem here in Calgary, understanding who are the accelerators and who are the funders and what are the different programs. And that's what I love, because that's a learning piece for me. That's something I wasn't involved with before. And everything I went through this year kind of led me back to program management type of work. I was targeting project, but program, I think, is really the type of work that I enjoy the most.
Most of the project managers that come from oil and gas tend to be program managers in tech. And it might be just that the nature of the industry is just more project based, and like in tech and hardware and software, most things are like programs, right?
And, a lot of times, one of the struggles I found trying to talk project management in tech is when people hear you're from oil, they assume you just do waterfall charts all day, right? Like you're doing long lead items, long lead planning, and that, kind of that real inflexible change request based project management. Because I was in an operations state, like I actually never did that style of project management. So the more I learned about agile and the whole like servant leader aspect of like being a scrum master, to me, I was like, that's always how I have done my work. Like that's always how I've approached project management, because it's real time operational.
I think one other experience I had when I started like updating my resume and profile was like I had a tendency to like round down or simplify all my experience. And I remember a friend of mine like read through my resume and he's like, you're really underselling yourself. And like, he's like, this is how I would describe this thing. Like for me, it might be like, well, I did this like presentation, PowerPoint presentation to like these stakeholders or something. But he's like, it's like $1 billion budget. You went to like get it approved by the Russian government, all these like kind of cross-functional alignment. And it's like, but it could be the exact same exercise, but it's like the way you describe it just matters. And it's like, maybe it's the Canadian in me to not like be too full of yourself or something, but it's like, but you do want to accurately represent it and to not undersell yourself,
That's
and I
right.
think it puts us a lot of people in an uncomfortable position when you're, I'm actually comfortable advocating for other people, but often not myself, if that makes sense.
Definitely, definitely. And like, yeah, I totally felt that too. And that's why I feel like my resume and my LinkedIn, it went through like several iterations. Because you're looking at things in different angles, or these people are shedding these new ideas you hadn't really considered before, and you thought, oh, actually, I am pretty good at that. Like, I better put that in there because that's unique and it sets me apart from others. And so my first couple of weeks, I just went through job postings. I signed up for alerts on LinkedIn, and every day I would go through them trying to understand, who is this company, what industry is it in, and what are they hiring. I was looking at software tech, project management in software tech. And then like that was more of like a long, because I eventually was hoping I could get into like a startup that has, I don't know, some purpose that like resonates with my purpose. And then I realized, like, oh, clean tech actually like makes this contribution to society. Like, there's this huge energy transition. Like, we need people with these oil backgrounds to help us wean off the fossil fuels,
Yeah.
before all these like clean tech and renewable is available. So there's a lot of work to be done in that space, and I can contribute to that. Another
Yeah.
big thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, I think that's what, like, even I couldn't see myself, I didn't see myself in the software world that much, like maybe just because my experience and even my interest wasn't specifically in it. But like when I came to Tesla, even like, although it's a tech company, it's like an industrial company, and I was like, and I think even like the red book behind me is like it's a climate change book that of a venture capitalist wrote. And so much of the climate problem is not really, I mean, you can use innovation to solve it, but it's like very industrial solutions that are needed across like this huge swath of industries.
Yep.
And which which I think I have a lot of skill sets to add to. Do you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's like when I first started of like innovation and tech, it's like the software engineer or something like that, but there's this whole other space. And I think climate tech, green investing, what all these things offer huge opportunity for people with our skill sets.